Call the meeting to order, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. First up, we have the approval of minutes for March 9th, 2023 special meeting, March 14th, 2023 work session and special meeting, March 21st, 2023 regular meeting, March 30th, 2023 special meeting. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Is there any public comment on agenda items? Yes.
Nancy Bryan, I have, I guess, a concern about how we're now going to put pickleball on the basketball courts, and instead of the tennis courts, which was originally discussed. And I've kind of been, looking through stuff, and I see that under the Della Vedova Trust information, it did say about basketball courts. I don't understand how we went from tennis courts and the sharing to now we're going to spend all this money to repave basketball courts. And then it sounded to me like we were now going to eliminate a court where there's only going to be one basketball court left. And why are we not using, and I could be wrong, but why have we gotten quotes for the tennis courts also, which is where originally this board was going, and how did we now make that transition to just the basketball courts?
I'll address that when we get to the pickleball discussion. Thank you.
When you choose, I don't know if this is the bright spot. I would like to make a motion on resolution item, on agenda item number 11, the Albright streetlight subcontract. I know last meeting at the work session, I know this was not time sensitive because the PSC still hasn't, given the approval. My concern is early on in 2021, maybe of May, when we were discussing this street lighting project with Real Term, one of the things that I know I was emphasizing is that we use local labor. I looked into the firm that's going to be the subcontractor we're looking to. They're from Rockland County, so I would like to find out, were there, because that was something with Real Term that we did emphasize, and I'd like to talk to them and find out why.
Sure. My understanding, though, is that the IGA, which we agreed to, had prices that were already bid on, and those prices were based on bids that they had put out during the bidding process. And so this is a result of a bidding process. And so because we agreed to the IGA, we have to go with this.
The contract has to be publicly bid.
Right.
Real Term's already done the work to bid it the once.
Right.
They might be willing to have you bid it again with a restriction to local labor, but you're probably just gonna drive your price up if you do that.
Right. I just, again, I don't know if Supervisor Wojciechowski, if that was the document you held last week during the work session, was that something from Real Term or was it the large document?
The IGA that we approved as a board, and we went through this process, and they spoke to us about how they were gonna bid all of the separate contracts out and come up with those prices. That's how we got to the IGA. They went through a bidding process,
Okay.
and that's how they determined those. So they went through a bidding process that we agreed to. We've already approved this, so we would actually have to.
Would it be just unreasonable to just go out and ask them, and Steve, as you were suggesting, if it drives up the price, it drives up the price, but at least we can rule out that, yes, we, in fact, as a town board, we did look at local labor.
The only issue I can see with that, Virginia, and it may not be a problem, you might want to sound out
I would
Real
just
term
wanna
and see if
reach
they
out
wanna do it,
informally, that's all.
But which is fine.
Yes.
But if you wanted to do that, I think you're gonna have to reject the bids that they got on this, because you can't put out a contract.
Can we
with them.
table the resolution for tonight?
Yeah, it's not time sensitive.
We can table it, but we cannot, I
That's
don't
all
know
I'm
that we
asking for
can,
this evening.
we've already ordered lights, so I don't know that we can go back
This
and
is the
reject.
service contract, isn't it? It's for the electric.
Yes, but the,
But that was the.
but the IGA included both physical, it included the hard infrastructure as well as the bids on the labor.
Or you think they were bid together?
I thought they
might
were
well be
bid
the case.
separately.
If that's, well, and I'm not sure, to be honest with you, Virginia, I don't remember.
Okay,
But
I
we can
thought-
certainly ask Real Term, and if they say they were bid together, you can't.
that's
undo
fine.
them now.
So I'm just
They-
requesting that we just table it for this
Well,
evening.
but again, you should wait until, I don't mean to be stand
Oh,
up
no,
for
no, no,
now.
that's fine.
until public
I just
comments
wanted
done
to
and
put
then-
it out there and just discuss it, that's all.
We, look, we can certainly do that, I mean, you know, again,
I appreciate it, would be the right thing to do, to make sure.
sure, and you
That's-
know
I
what?
appreciate it.
We can certainly look at it.
You should know by the first meeting in May, I mean, they're either gonna say, yeah, this is something we can do, or we just can't arrange the two.
I mean,
think it's
it-
probably gonna be the latter, so.
Yeah,
Okay, so,
all right, so, so tree preservation law update. So, just basically where we are at with the tree preservation law is basically the town attorney, he has met with the chair of the Conservation Advisory Committee. He's going to be putting together a memo, and we will have a draft local law that takes some of those changes into account, as well as, you know, some of the edits that others have made, the planning board attorney. And so Steve will have those for us for the May work session. He's currently working on it.
Right, I got as Josh says, we sat down and we talked with Carla about the draft that the CCAC has come up with on the tree preservation law. And we had a number of suggestions, some things she said she would tweak, and she got it to me last week. I should have, you know, gone through it and gotten you the memo, but I just was unable to do that. So I'll go through the revised law now, I'll provide you a memo summarizing the terms of it, and then we should discuss what's in the tree preservation law and what you like and what you may not like.
okay,
And then if changes need to be made, I have to go back and revise the draft law. If you like it as it is, then it's easy enough.
Mhm.
Draft local law adopting it to amend the code. And that's, I think, where we'll be at. But we should be getting to that for the first week in May. I know Carla had said that she wanted to make a brief presentation on it.
She wanted to have a public, like, you know, presentation, you know, maybe at like at Munger Cottage or upstairs or in here, just so the I guess.
Right, but my understanding, and we can talk with her, Josh,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to speak, I wouldn't presume to speak for Carla. But my understanding was that you approached the board first,
Yep.
yeah.
and then if the board was okay with it, and Carla wanted to make a brief presentation on
The
to the
work
board.
session, right?
Yes,
Oh, that makes
Well,
sense.
not necessarily, work could be a regular, well, yeah, the first
I
meeting
did
of
the
May, I guess
work
is
session.
technically a work
yes.
session.
That's
Well, I thought you meant like another hour before the type of a work session, but that's fine. And then, once the law is ready, you know, to be rolled out to the public, you could have a broader presentation on it so that people kind of get a taste before you actually hold the public hearing on it. But if I'm wrong about that, maybe she has it the other way around.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where a public hearing might not do it justice and allow for time to like actually explain what's in there and how, like, what the practical impact would be.
So
I
I
think that was-
suggested a PowerPoint might work well.
Yeah.
I don't, you know, it's up to her. That's-
Yeah, we'll work that out.
But it also gives the board a chance to tweak things,
Well, the point is that you're gonna wanna,
right,
before it's presented more broadly to the public, you're gonna wanna take
As
a
a
look at
board,
it and
right.
decide, I like this aspect of
That's
it,
what we're
I don't
here
like
for.
that aspect of it. Because otherwise you're rolling out something for the public to comment on that just doesn't have a chance to get passed.
right.
Or maybe that you're already in love with or gonna pass, but I mean,
Right.
the point is you should take a look at it before you roll it out.
As a joint effort.
This is the
exactly.
way to do that.
I agree.
So next up, we have stormwater protection plan changes. So as you're aware, we have something called a SWIP, and that's required by the state. But those are the bare minimums that you can have. And so, after the incident that we had on December 23rd on the golf course, where we had that, 3 inches of rain in a half an hour to an hour, and it caused all that flooding. It's become apparent to me that the bare minimum SWIP requirements will not sort of meet the needs of when we have these extreme rain events, either during construction or even post-construction. And so we are allowed to make these stronger. In fact, some towns have. Goshen has, I believe the town of Newburgh has. You go across the Hudson Valley, they've added these additional protections in. So if you look at the memo that the town engineer put together, this was back in February when we had started looking at this. These are just some of the areas that he had recommended that we could look at. So we actually had last week, we had a meeting, or a Zoom meeting, myself, Dominic, the planning board attorney, because he used to work for the DEC and is very familiar with this, the town engineer, the building inspector, and we spoke about some areas that we could sort of make stronger to offer additional protections. So Steve and Dominic and Sean are gonna get together and they're gonna try to draft some local laws, or some, not local laws, but I guess some different sections that would be in one local law.
I think the cleanest thing to do, Josh, is there's the existing section in the code on stormwater pollution prevention plans, SWIPs, and we can just take a Word version of that, give you a red line of the changes that we're proposing, show you what's being taken out, what's being put in, and then we'll marry that with a resolution introducing a local law with those changes. Decide that you don't like it, we can always change it around again. If you feel it needs to go stronger or what have you, we can make additional changes. This way you can see the difference between what's in there now and what the change will be. So we'll put that together for you. I gotta get with Sean to discuss the appropriate wording. But
Yeah,
we'll
he's
have that
currently
soon.
on vacation.
Can't
this week.
promise that, yeah, he's away, so I can't promise that for the first meeting in May, but very possibly for the second.
Yeah, so that's something I think that's pretty important. I mean, the goal is gonna be to really try to, and we don't necessarily have to cover the whole town. We can take a whole town approach. We can take a sensitive area approach, like next to wetlands, water bodies, or other sensitive areas. So there's some like flexibility, and that's where the board's gonna have to decide which direction it wants to go. But I definitely think we should look at this. So that's stormwater protection plan changes. Next up, we have, so you may recall that we are looking to allow part-time police officers to be able to accept additional employment with other municipal police departments. This would make it easier for us to hire part-timers, because this way they wouldn't be locked into only working with our agency. And so in order to do that, we have to adopt the local law. So this resolution would introduce that local law, and the goal would be to schedule a meeting for, I believe, May 9th would get us to 10 days. Just to count.
I think we could do.
Should we
it,
push
but
it off to the?
Yeah, the second would
Okay.
be much better.
All right, so
And if I
that's,
could just add one thing, Josh, real
Sure.
quick. The provision in the town code regarding police regulations also has the rules of the department. And the section before this in it says that the ability to work outside of the police department is contingent upon the chief making determination that it isn't going to interfere with your duties. So this isn't a free pass for anybody who's a part-time police officer to just go and take whatever other employment with another municipality that they might like. They have to go to the chief and say, I want to work part-time for Harriman or Woodbury or whoever it is. And if he looks and he sees the number of hours is too many, he has the ability to say, well, you got to cut back, otherwise it's going to interfere with your ability to serve Cornwall. Or you could even refuse it altogether if it was, something that was just going to interfere with the ability of the town's police department to function. So it's important to understand that. Yeah, you're allowing this, but all you're doing is taking away the prohibition. It's not a complete right to do it.
so if the board is so inclined to act, this would introduce that local law, and schedule a public hearing.
Okay, so you're saying maybe,
16th.
okay.
Whereas the town board of the town of Cornwall has proposed local law before it entitled a local law to amend chapter 41, Police Regulations, Article 3, Duties of Members of the Police Department, Section 41-20, Rule 3.12, Employment outside department to allow part-time police officers employed by the town to accept additional employment with the police departments of other municipalities. And whereas, in order to consider enacting the proposed local law, it must be formally introduced and a public hearing must be scheduled and held upon it. Now therefore it be resolved as follows. That the motion, that the movement, sorry. That the movement of this resolution does hereby introduce the above proposed local law, that a public hearing on the proposed local law be set for May 16th, 7:00 PM, and that the due notice of the same is directed to be given publication and posted. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes, okay. All right, so, next up, we have the asbestos inspection and lead hazard evaluation results for the American Legion building. So, I think we had all feared that there would be asbestos in the American Legion building. But if you look at page 2, you can kind of see where it's been detected, what material description, what locations. And then when you get to recommendations, essentially, we're gonna have to decide if there's, if we have to do, they're looking to install a new HVAC system in the American Legion. So the question is, can it be done without having to disturb any of these areas? And I don't know if that's the case. I think that's for the engineer and the contractor to try to figure out if there's a workaround to not having to disturb the asbestos, because, we could also look into seeing what, get quotes on what possible remediation would be.
Right.
So we can certainly do that. I guess I'll leave it open to the board. We can certainly do all, both. If there's a way not to have to disturb it, that might be preferred, but we should certainly get quotes to see what the cost will be for
Maybe we
remediation.
just have those numbers and make a decision based on those numbers.
So we'll get those.
Okay.
I'll instruct Sean to get some quotes on that. But yeah, unfortunately, this
So-
isn't gonna be as quick as we thought.
Okay, yeah, like everything. So if we have to do, this remediation, I know that the work is being done on, as part of a grant. Would we be looking to use ARPA funds to, if we have to, or is that something we should be thinking about? If we have to do the asbestos remediation?
Yeah, certainly. Look,
Okay.
ARPA is something that can be applied. Something else
That's
that we
what I
have to,
thought.
something else that we have to look into as well, and we haven't even gotten to this yet, is
Okay.
there's some stuff in the state contract
Yes.
that basically deals with public use of the facility that the town attorney is looking into. So like if you take public dollars from the dormitory authority, there's a public use requirement which says the public has to be able to use the building. So yeah, there's actually a certification that we have to sign when we submitted the grant. So we're gonna have to, this is something that Steve's looking into, because I've not been able to find any kind of agreement that we have with the Legion on file here. So it may require that we amend an agreement potentially.
Right.
We have more to look into.
Josh is discussing is there's a provision it's federal law that says that if you take federal or state dollars, federal dollars through the state for use of parks, you cannot keep the parks for solely local use. That's not really a problem in Cornwall. You hold your parks open pretty much to everybody.
Yeah.
Buildings are another matter, though. American Legion, buildings for the American Legion. And if you take money from federal government for it, are you going to be required to hold it open to other groups besides the American Legion, which you may not want to do?
Yeah, with all the
So,
artifacts
we
they
haven't
have.
come to a conclusion on that yet. It's something that we're still in the process of looking into, but you're gonna need an answer on that.
We can look into that while
Okay.
because this is delayed things, we have the time to do
Okay, that's good.
the research into it.
Okay.
Okay, so, pickleball. So, the plan, the way I understand it, is that there's 2 tennis courts,
Mhm.
there's 2 pickleball courts, there's 2 tennis court, or there's 2 basketball courts. That's what this would effectively shape this up to be. We're not actually, 2 tennis courts, 2 pickleball courts, 2 basketball courts. So, and if you recall, a couple of years ago, we made the decision to put the pickleball players up on the basketball courts because there was already 2 basketball courts. So we essentially, they would have 2, the pickleball folks would have 2, and tennis would have 2. So that's essentially where we would be going with this. They've already moved and have started playing up there, but they're asking for improved surface, and they're asking for the fence to be put around so that the ball doesn't go down the hill. We certainly have, I know you've probably seen the Van Etten quote. I've spoken to Tommy about that, and we actually, we've kind of thrown that one out.
So,
So where we're, so some of the paving and asphalt repair, Tommy believes that his guys could do it in-house.
They do.
We're not talking about resurfacing and, we're looking at maybe having to, I'll let you explain it if you.
Well, the Van Etten quote is him repaving the entire surface, which is obviously unnecessary, as the blacktop's only a little over a year old. There is a low spot where the water settles. We'd like to grind it out, put the blacktop in to make it level. And then the acrylic paint that goes on should seal all joints, and we should be good to go from there. Regarding the removing the basketball stanchions, you're talking about permanently installing posts and nets. I mean, you can't play basketball there anymore.
yeah.
So, it would, that's kind of the option.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Now, there was a third quote we were waiting for A-plus line striping. When I spoke to them, they actually partnered with Van Etten, so Van Etten was gonna do the asphalt work, and A-plus was gonna do the acrylic and line work, so that's why we're back down to 2 quotes.
Gotcha.
So, I mean, basically, and this is really a question for the folks that are playing pickleball. I mean, right now they're not using permanent nets. They're using the nets that the rec department bought. So I think, the question really is, do we need to have is there an option where we just do the acrylic resurfacing and the striping and the fencing, and we don't install permanent nets? I mean, we can always go back and do that at a later date if we decide. I don't think that has to happen. So, I mean, that's,
I mean, once you close it off with the fence, you're talking about it's not gonna be easy to get machinery in there.
Good point.
Yeah, I have noticed too, when they set those temporary ones up, the wind will take them. So,
The only concern I have is, I know, I'm thinking what's cost effective. I have seen in other municipalities, they are putting the striping on the tennis courts.
yeah.
And I do believe, we do have limited facilities. I actually thought we were going in that path because I've seen, we've got the straps for the people that were playing pickleball. They were putting that on the tennis court. They were drawing chalk on the tennis court, and they're playing as well. I think a very quick and efficient way of doing it is to put stripes on at least one of the courts. I mean, I do feel, with limited resources, we should be sharing things.
yeah, I mean, we have a rec fund that's designed to
I-
do just
yeah,
that. And
but-
so,
But I think that we do need to, this is something, it's quick to do. It's not going to inconvenience a lot of people, like the basketball while they're doing, the surfacing on the pickleball, like you could do that in stages. That's my thinking on this, and I'm thinking that, I'd love to see more improvements actually on the basketball court. There are kids that want like a backstop that doesn't, vibrate back and forth when they play, and that,
Well, I'd say that's a decision for you guys to make,
Yeah.
not me. But the other thing I wanted to mention about the
Sure.
Van Etten quote is, another reason why it was higher is he measured the area and actually decided that we could fit 3 pickleball courts,
Yeah.
not 2.
Mhm.
So that's why his quote was also higher, but.
yeah, I mean, I'm not for striping the tennis courts. I think that they should have their own separate facilities. Basketball gets 2 courts, pickleball gets 2, tennis gets to.
It's also, may I add something? We're looking for a long-term solution. Putting stripes on any courts, our municipality has only 2 tennis courts. New Windsor has 4, and they
Right.
have put stripes there.
Yes, they have.
Cornwall
Yeah,
Park,
a much larger population than us.
correct. Our goal is to extend the recreation department activities. So with 2 pickleball courts, which they were striped during the previous administration, they were already up there, the
Mhm.
blue lines, so that was started in the previous, that was a good idea to keep these separated. We want to have a happy pickleball players and happy tennis players. And believe it or not, this is a sport that is not just for adults. A lot of kids pick up paddles.
Mhm.
I work in a facility that we accommodate both sports, and a lot of youth are actually playing pickleball. So it's wrong to limit the thoughts that this is gonna take a lot of space from the basketball players and only older people are gonna play there. It's incorrect.
Well, I see the majority of the people, the residents that are using the facilities, they're the basketball players, and that's been for decades. And,
And they will continue playing this
and I
basketball.
wanna make sure that that continues.
I don't think anyone's kicking them out.
But I also think, sharing is not a bad thing either. I've watched the pickleball people,
If you-
they
if you
share
look
the
at
courts.
If you look at the dimensions of the tennis courts, if you go out there with a measure,
Sure.
and it is almost impossible to have people play tennis in one court, because you can't even go cross. There are 2 courts, tennis courts, and there's no space between them. People cannot go around, so you have to go the whole thing, so there's no space. So if you put 2 pickleball courts in one and line them, and then a tennis player plays, there's no netting between, the balls are gonna come and go. There's just not enough space. If we did have much more space between the 2 existing tennis courts, that would be ideal. Well, unfortunately, we don't. So neither of the parties are gonna be happy playing there, because the
Well-
ball's gonna interfere with that.
So,
Again,
look,
it's a public court, and I think that we should, try to work with one another and share.
We are
Like
actually,
before you were on the board, we've had other people that wanted certain things built for them, and, we'll go back to the cricket, and, so we need to be consistent when we tell, and I know you were not on the board, but it's working with what you have, and I think that.
we are working with what we have.
Look,
We
I
have
mean,
2
what-
pickleball courts
what-
that are up there, we just wanna finalize and finish them.
Yeah, I mean,
They already exist.
so what I would
They're
say
already
is
up there.
that
Definitely fix the
we have a
surface.
group of pickleball players that have asked for this. There is,
But they were
the
willing to
community
share.
is asking for that. Well, no,
They were willing to share.
they would actually like
Right.
to move up there because there was starting to be conflicts on the courts between tennis, there were, yes. And so they have asked to move up top. There is a rec fund. There's a group of people that would like this. I don't think it's an unreasonable request to use money in the rec fund instead of just having it sit there for years and years and years and never be spent on amenities for residents. That's why it's there, to be
And-
spent on amenities.
And allow me to add
So
something
this is a
really
reasonable
valuable.
upgrade to our park.
During this whole several months that we've been going back and forth with the pickleball courts and tennis court, I have not had even single person coming here from basketball families and say, please don't do that. Have you ever had anybody in the audience? I have never received a
They're out
letter.
playing, that's why.
Pardon me?
They're out playing. They're out playing. I see the kids, they're still out there.
Correct. Well, their parents, their parents watch
Well, you
these.
see what happens if we reduce their playing area, yeah, they will be coming to say something. And I think that,
You're not looking at the point that I'm trying to make
I
here.
know the point you're trying to make.
There's no objections to this. We're expanding recreation department activities. We wanted to have more nicer place for the pickleball players to have their own independent space to play
Well, we
happily.
also have the surface. We also
Anyway.
have the surface down there already, and then we're gonna spend more money to change the surface and put the extra paint and stuff. So that's what I don't understand.
We're
We
gonna have,
already have that surface down there, it's a matter of just putting lines there.
we're gonna have,
That's very cost effective as
Okay,
opposed to this.
I'm afraid we're not getting to any.
yeah, I mean, I
Well,
think,
we're-
I
we're
think,
gonna-
yeah, I think we should probably move on. We don't have a full board tonight, so we ought to,
Well, it's,
come
you know,
back and we'll
we're
pick this back up
gonna
when we have a
discuss some
full.
things later because,
It is, your
We'll come back when we
opinion
have
is
a full board.
respected,
I appreciate that,
However,
but
however, for somebody who does not know neither of the sports and dimensions of the court, the technicality, how these actually interfere. Several weeks ago, we had Mark Savage came here from Sportsplex, and he doesn't live in Cornwall, but he does run this business. He also said that it's, you, as elected officials, we're looking for something long-term.
absolutely,
We are elected to make the right decision for the people here,
right.
so.
Well, we'll discuss this further.
Okay, so next up, we have a resolution for the Cornwall EMS door replacement. So, basically what we have to decide is, both quotes from, Reliable Glass and Door Corp., they are ADA compliant. The second one has a door closer and a low energy operator with activation switches, which is where, you know, like when you hit the
Right.
button and the door opens. So the reason why there's an additional cost is because there's an electrician and there's additional electronic component that has to go with the door. So really the question becomes, do we want to go with that option where you have that, automatic door opener? I would think we would, for that door. The other one is ADA compliant, but it's not the same, it doesn't have the, allow for the same ease of opening the door. So, I would opt for us to go with the quote for $13,425 that has that low energy operator with activation switches.
Okay.
How are you gonna designate that in the resolution?
And I will say,
Or a number maybe? we can-
yeah, it is estimate 6788. I think that's how,
To quote,
reliable. Number
reliable glass, estimate number 660.
6788. Okay. Alright. Whereas the town has solicited proposed quotes for the replacement of side entrance doors at the Cornwall EMS building, and whereas the town has received proposals from Reliable Glass and Door Corp. and New Glass and Storefronts Inc. and is prepared to accept the attached proposal from Reliable Glass and Door Corp. Estimate number 6788 for the amount of $13,425 and move forward with installation. Now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board hereby agrees to enter into said agreement with Reliable Glass and Door Corp. and authorizes the supervisor to execute the same. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Ms. Scott?
yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michaelozzi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Okay. Next up, we have a resolution that would essentially, every year we have to have a Arbor Day tree planting in order to maintain our Tree City USA designation. So this would designate that for April 28th, which is Arbor Day, at the time of 8 a.m. We want to do it during the day when we have work crews on, before they go home. If we do it into the later afternoon, into the late afternoon hours, we're not, we'd have to have our guys go into overtime to stay for this, so we'd like to just do it in the morning if possible. So,
Is there a time you're planning to do this on?
yeah, 8 a.m.
8 a.m.
Yeah, they get in at 7, so, obviously the day before, they would come in and they would, everything has to be marked out, by, what was it, Monday?
Yeah, Monday at the latest.
Yeah, so we'll have markouts and then we'll dig the holes. We're looking at planting, 2 or 3 trees. We have a spot or 2 over on Rings Pond, and then there's also a spot in between, Little League Drive and,
The triangle.
yeah, Munger Drive. There used to be a willow tree there that is no longer So we're looking to replace a tree that was once there. It's like a really wet area, and we believe a willow tree would be good in that spot long-term. So, whereas the town of Cornwall recognizes the importance of trees for many years and has been proud to participate in the annual celebrations of Arbor Day and Earth Day, and is celebrating the 18th anniversary of being a Tree City USA town, and whereas in keeping with the Tree City USA standard requirements to qualify for membership, the town encourages tree planting, environmental activities, and community pride, and whereas the town proposes to plant trees on Town Hall grounds of Riverlight Park on April 28th, 2023 at 8 a.m., now therefore be resolved as follows, that the town board wishes to celebrate Arbor Day and Earth Day by encouraging its citizens to participate in environmental activities in keeping with the spirit of each of these days, and that the town board wishes to recognize and celebrate the 18th anniversary of being a Tree City USA town, and that the town board authorizes the planting of trees on the town hall grounds of Riverlight Park on April 28th at 8 a.m. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Okay, so next up, we have two resolutions. You should still have the engineer's memo. So basically what we have to do is we are eliminating 750 linear feet of PVC sewer lateral, and there's a savings of 200,000. But we're then going to do this trenchless piping. And that's gonna be added to the RL 2G contract for a cost of $133,763. There will be a net decrease in overall project cost of $66,000. So in order to do that, we need to enact both of these resolutions. So let me just, the first one here, whereas the town board entered into a contract with Whispering Pines Development Corp., the contractor, for sewer district number 1, inflow and infiltration and surcharging mitigation, the project. And whereas the town board has received a request from MHE, the town's consulting engineer, to process the attached change order number 5 to the said contract. And whereas it is appropriate for the town board to adopt a resolution authorizing said change order, now therefore be resolved as follows. That the town board of the town of Cornwall approves the change order annexed hereto and authorizes the town's consulting engineer to direct the contractor to proceed with the change. That the supervisor is authorized to execute the change order on behalf of the town of Cornwall. Can I get a motion to approve?
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Next up, I have the contract for Arnold Construction. Whereas the town board entered into a contract with Arnold Construction Company, Inc., the contractor for sewer district number 1, inflow and infiltration and surcharging mitigation, the project. And whereas the town board has received a request from MHE, the town's consulting engineer, to process the attached change order number 2 to the said contract. And whereas it is appropriate for the town board to adopt a resolution authorizing said change order. Now therefore be resolved as follows. That the town board of the town of Cornwall approves the change order annexed hereto and authorizes the town's consulting engineer to direct the contractor to proceed with the change. That the supervisor is authorized to execute the change order on behalf of the town of Cornwall. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Okay. Next up, I have a resolution in opposition to the Indian Point radioactive releases. So, although you may have heard that Holtec has paused the releases, they at any point in time can go forward with the releases because it is regulated by the federal government. So at this point, what we're all hoping to do up and down the river is to apply pressure on Holtec to stop this. There is state legislation in play that if it gets passed in time, this would, prevent this from happening. So the best that we can do, I believe, is to pass this resolution and basically say no more dumping in the Hudson River, especially radioactive contaminated water. So let me just read the resolution here. Resolution in opposition to the discharge of contaminated water from Indian Point into the Hudson River. Whereas the town of Cornwall and the village of Cornwall and Hudson are located on the western bank of the Hudson River, whereas the Hudson River is an important environmental, cultural, recreational, and economic resource. Whereas the Hudson River is an estuary and it flows both from north to south and from south to north. Whereas the Indian Point Nuclear Power Plant is situated on the banks of the Hudson River. Whereas the Indian Point Nuclear Power Plant has closed and is in the process of being decommissioned. Whereas Holtec International, the company decommissioning Indian Point, has announced its intention to release water from on-site radioactive fuel waste pools into the Hudson River. And whereas to date, there has been no specific reporting of radionuclide contents of this water, which is heavily contaminated from the storage of nuclear fuel waste. And whereas the pre-filtration to remove these isotopes has been presented as a solution to reduce the content of these carcinogenic contaminants to a level as low as reasonably achievable. Whereas the National Academy of Sciences has indicated that there is no verifiable safe level of these isotopes when they are ingested or inhaled. Whereas such pre-release treatment would not remove tritium, which is a carcinogenic substance from the water. Whereas there are several communities upriver who source their drinking water from the Hudson. Whereas the environmental damage that will result from the proposed release of water from Indian Point into the Hudson River will inflict significant harm on all the communities situated along the river. Now therefore be resolved as follows. That the town of Cornwall strongly opposes the plan to release contaminated water from Indian Point Nuclear Power Plant site into the Hudson River. The town of Cornwall calls on the New York State Legislature and Governor Kathleen Hochul to enact legislation proposed by Senator Pete Harcum and Assemblymember Dana Levenberg, Senate Bill 5181, Assembly Bill 5338, to ban release of radioactive waste to the Hudson River. And that the town of Cornwall calls on Holtec's International Board of Directors to advise Holtec to suspend the plan to release radioactive waste into the Hudson River. And that a certified copy of this resolution shall be sent to the New York State Senate Majority Leader, the New York State Assembly Speaker, Governor Hochul, and the Board of Directors of Holtec International. Can I get a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Okay, so we are punting on Albright until we can talk about the contract. Next up, we have a resolution for NI-class town investments. So basically what this is instead of just having our funds in money market or other types of accounts that earn 0 to 0.25% interest, we have an option because the Fed fund rates are so high and they've been increasing. This has caused a situation where NI-class is able to offer 4.64% interest rates on balances that we keep there. And so the other good thing about this is that it's really liquid. So any day we can contact NI-class, and if we have to move money out of any accounts, we can do so the same day as long as we do before 12. And so this would allow us, so let's just say we have $1 million sitting in an account. We could basically over the, let's just say if we did it for a year, we could basically earn, something like $38,000 to $40,000 on $1 million sitting in a bank account. And so Pam estimates that we could have somewhere between $2 to $2.5 million sitting there that would be available to earn interest. So this would be a good way for us to generate some revenue, start building back our fund balances and some of the funds. And basically, the way it would work is you have a list of accounts. So let's say the Gen A fund has $1 million that we could put in there, and the highways got this amount, and capital project funds have this amount. It all goes in there, and each separate account earns the interest. And so each month we get statements, and it's going to show us how much our accounts are accruing. The interest actually accrues on a daily basis, which is why we don't want to wait, because every day we're losing money that we're not in these accounts. So Pam has asked that we act on this tonight so that we do not lose the opportunity. If you look at some other entities that are participating, both of the large cities in Orange County, Salisbury Mills Fire District, Washingtonville Fire District, Cornwall Central School District does it, Washingtonville does it, and then.
Josh, have we done this before? This is first time?
No, because in the past, it just wasn't worth it. I
I
mean,
see.
because the interest rates are so high, it really makes sense to do this, for as long as interest rates remain high.
Like 4.6 now.
Yeah, and they're expected to maybe go up maybe one more time, because the Fed's expected to raise rates again this month. So, I would ask the board to, adopt this tonight so we can start taking advantage.
Any thoughts, Steve?
Well, it's certainly a legal thing to do.
Okay.
It certainly provides you liquidity, as Josh alluded to.
Mhm.
I wish I could be a little bit more sure as to the extent to which your investment is insured. I'm not seeing a provision in regard to that. But certainly numerous other Orange County entities, you can see them listed here,
Right.
have engaged in it. So,
Right.
I mean, it doesn't seem terribly risky. So, you know,
No, big
how much
ticket.
are you talking about putting in here, Josh, altogether?
Pam believes we have maybe up to $2 million, but it doesn't have to be that amount. I mean, we could decide that we're gonna go with less, of that amount, but I don't know that we wanna set an amount, because that's like a moving target. So, we could certainly,
That's gonna be.
you know, before we hamstring Pam with percentages and do that, maybe if you think you need more time, I would ask that you, because I don't know that we want to say, because in order to really have any advantage to this, we really need to have like at least $1 million in there
Mhm.
to gain anything. And so you know, certainly, you know, these other entities, they've been doing it for a while. I mean, look, obviously, you know, there's risk with anything. But I don't know that I would want to restrict Pam to 20, you know, and then 25% of what? So we'd have to define, or 50% of what?
Look, the only concern
Yeah.
that I have is if you put money in a bank, you're FDIC insured.
Sure.
Right.
If you put money in a money market, you know, again, you're pretty safe as far as that goes, but, you know, it's not 100%. You start putting money in a mutual fund, it could go up, it could go down, you have a lot of issues as far as that goes. This says all the right things, certainly, as far as, you know, liquidity, competitive returns. Again, I don't question it is legal in any way, shape, or form. But, and like I said, there's multiple Orange County municipalities who have entered into this, which, you know, I mean, was it 1,000 Frenchmen can't be wrong? Is that what the saying was?
Correct.
I mean, basically
But,
every,
you know, until you actually have some idea on that, $2 million. And I hate to disappoint Pam as far as if she thinks it's a good idea. I mean, it is liquid, you could always pull it out.
That's what she was saying, the liquidity, and, there are no transaction fees for doing it either, which I thought was.
yeah, so the way NICLAS earns money is that they obviously bring in, so there's an interest rate spread that so they are taking the money and they're earning a higher interest rate, and then they're giving this, and then in between, they're getting a couple of pips of whatever, of interest rate spread, which is how they earn their fee. So that's how they get,
Well, if the board is satisfied, like I said, you can enter into it, and if you subsequently get cold feet, you can pull the money out easily enough. Or you could wait if you had a mind to. Again, you might be missing out on an opportunity if you do that, but, you know, those are decisions for you to make.
The list of participant neighboring towns are pretty extensive and trustworthy, and I'm sure Pam knows what she's doing, no doubt. So we have town of Woodbury, Warwick, Newburgh, Monroe, Highlands, and Goshen.
Not
So-
insured, okay. I will read the line, and
Yes, no,
it's not
it's not a bank.
Pam's, you know, I do.
no, it's not a bank, of course.
I had a conversation with her about this. It does say in the fine print, an investment in NICLAS is not insured or guaranteed by the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation or any other government agency. So it is there in the fine
What
print.
page is that, Mrs. Scott?
Right here.
Yeah, I don't think
Councilwoman
anyone
O'Connor.
said that it was a bank. I mean, I guess what I would say is that if the,
I think I've heard a lot of good presentations about it when I attended the conference with the Association of
Yes.
Towns. I say we trust her judgment on this, because she has been spending a lot of time thinking about this, and she did meet
we met today with the.
with Mr. Friedman, I believe it was Joel.
Yes, we met today.
Sounds
and
good.
He explained it,
Let's
and I
go
mean,
for it.
certainly if, these other
Right,
entities.
I just want us going in, eyes open.
All right, good to go, Josh.
Okay, and look, obviously, if we, I believe there's something also like 10 billion plus under management between all of these different funds, so there's a sizable, so in order to have an issue with, liquidity, you would have to literally have, like the end of the world. But obviously, yeah.
Okay. So
Um,
are we voting on this?
yes,
Okay.
so we have a municipal cooperation resolution. Whereas New York General Municipal Law, Article 5G, Section 119-0, or O, empowers municipal corporation defined in Article 5G, Section 119N, to include school district boards of cooperative educational services, counties, cities, towns, villages, and districts, to enter into and amend, cancel, and terminate agreements for the performance among themselves, for one or for the other, for their respective functions, powers, and duties on a cooperative or contract basis. Whereas the town of Cornwall wishes to invest portions of its available investment funds in cooperation with other corporations and/or districts pursuant to the NICLAS Municipal Cooperation Agreement amended and reinstated as of March 28th, 2019. Whereas the town of Cornwall wishes to satisfy the safety and liquidity needs of their funds. Now therefore it be resolved as follows, that Pamela Wood, bookkeeper of the town of Cornwall, is hereby authorized to participate in the NICLAS program under the terms of NICLAS Cooperation Agreement amended and reinstated as March 20th, 2019.
Can we, just for a second, Steve, that date's okay?
As of
2000.
March 28, 2019. That's the date that the agreement was amended and restated.
All right.
It's like it's an older
All right,
document.
I'm just. Okay, I'm sorry, Josh.
After that, there's nothing to do but call for it's on the next
Okay.
page. When I presented the motion.
Yeah, can I get a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second,
Ms. Scott?
yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Alright, so, next up we have committee reports, workshop.
Let me see where we are. Okay. Let me start with the most recent one, which is CAC Arbor Day. The CAC is working with the town to identify tree planting site in advance of the national observance of Arbor Day. Planting at least, as you know, planting at least one tree on Arbor Day is the key to maintaining our Tree City USA certification for the community. So that's that. The next event we're gonna have is Riverkeeper Sweep, which is 12th annual Riverkeeper Sweep is scheduled on Saturday, May 6th at Downhill Park. The CAC and volunteers will be cleaning up trash and derbies from along the riverfront, as well as conducting maintenance of the 2 trees for the planting site. Let's see what else is here. Yes, this is actually, I did want you to touch this. Carla's not here. No, okay. Climate smart communities. Would you like to talk about this or no? Just read it. Carla Castillo, the CAC chair, is drafting a memo to the town boards detailing how the program will work and benefit the town, and it makes the town certified climate smart community. So that is at works. The youth committee report. Let me just go to Cornwall Youth Garden Club since we are in the planting season. The story of the Cornwall Youth Garden Club will be on Cornwall Local on April 28th. Paul Sturmer, who's the chair, has been interviewed by the Cornwall Local. The community lounge party will be on the April 30th. Actually, the location, I have not written that down. I do not know where it is, but it will be announced on our website. The Youth Garden Club now officially is recipient of the donations through Cornwall Events Fund. So anybody who would like to donate to Cornwall Youth Garden Club can just go through the Cornwall Event Funds. The garden locations that we have actually would like to plant with the youth is Hudson Highland Nature Museum, all Cornwall Elementary Schools, which is COH, Lee Road and Willow Avenue, the elementary schools, and Donahue Farm also has given us permission to have a spot there. Yesterday, Michelle, Diego, and myself did inspect the town hall area to see, we took some pictures, and we're gonna run it by Superintendent of the Highway, Mr. Tom Gershwin, to make sure if it's okay to have a little wildflowers garden over there. So that's for the youth committee. What else is there? The youth committee report, youth committee meeting is going to be on Thursday, June 8th at 2 hours. So the public is more than welcome to attend. And that's about it. Thank you.
Virginia?
All right, the Senior Advisory Committee, you saw on Saturday, the members of the committee actually attended Senator Gillibrand's press conference. They're very encouraged by the attention that the senator is bringing in terms of food insecurity and the idea of transportation. That was a big one, but they are very appreciative. They said they're very appreciative for the senior bus that we have. Our next meeting will be April 24th at 1 o'clock, and as part of the goals the seniors have, they want to do activities, and one of the things that they're going to be doing is Teresa Del Savio, a local artist new to the community. She'll be doing an art presentation. Artist of Cornwall, and the public is welcome. The Jewish Families Towns Friendly Visitor Program, as we are aware, we do have there's a new executive director, and working closely with Paula Blumenau to move forward with more trainings. I did get a report for the month of February. Total number of services provided by volunteers was 46. One of the things that Paul is going to try to do is go and talk to more Cornwall volunteer committees throughout the town to see if they could actually volunteer or come to the trainings or have training programs. So that's, Paula and I have discussed that. The Main Street Beautification Committee, we met last night at Bridge Street. We did order 3 tables and like a bistro sets. 2 of them came in, and we did lay them out last night just to look at them. They do need to be assembled. That's where you guys come in, which I really would appreciate. We went through the plantings. We talked about how we could help get things ready for the arts collectives, events. There's the electric is almost there. Just waiting on Central Hudson. It's the story of our lives. Central Hudson, and it'll be nice, hopefully, for the Arts Collective. There'll be some outdoor music, and people will be able to walk up and down Main Street and enjoy that. We'll probably be planting early May, and we look forward to the trees that we planted at Sands Ring. They did survive despite the drought, so definitely looking forward to doing a lot of things. One of the proposals we have is to, I know the county with the bridge project, we are looking to put some wildflowers or some plantings, something that we could easily move if the county does, like, one day announce, hey, we're coming and we're going to do it. So we just thought just leaving it there and doing nothing with it while we're waiting for the county. We promise we won't expend too much of your manpower hours, but just a nice space that people can actually just quietly sit as well. So that's all I have for this month.
I would think the only thing we need to determine is, so in that area, you know, we're gonna have a pre-construction meeting.
Oh, well, when is that gonna be?
Well, they just bid the contract out, or
Oh,
they
they
just bid
did?
it out on 3/31,
Okay.
and they were hoping to have a pre-construction meeting, I think, the last week of May, start in June.
Okay.
I don't think that's likely to be the case,
Yeah.
but I believe they're gonna have cranes and all kinds of equipment in that.
All right, I'll
So-
reach out and make
So-
sure with Eric, because my conversation sounded like it's gonna be more the fall, so that's why we could actually enjoy a season, a summer, using it, but I'll reach out. Thank you for giving that information. That's
Okay.
it?
Carrie?
For the month of March, the Highway Department assisted sanitation with double pickups. They had vacations and call-outs, they filled in for them for those. They cleaned the shop and highways sanitation department grounds, repaired sunken catch basin at highway garage, repaired broken water tank at highway garage, replaced pipes on Long Hill Road extension, did stump grinding from multiple stumps from the compromised trees taken down by Central Hudson on Hazen Street, were 4 of them. Hasbrook was 1 of them, Fury Road were 2. Remove all wood left by Central Hudson, cutting down 7 trees. Topsoil, seed, and straw where stumps were removed. Plow all roads, sidewalks, and clean up business district from winter storm. Saved 8 to 14 inches of snow throughout town. The one storm we had.
What was that?
Wash all trucks with salt neutralizer, get street sweeper, unwinterize and start sweeping winter debris and salt from the sides of roads. Repair door on wood chip box that bent during dumping of chips. Attend a pre-construction meeting in Potsdam, New York for new wing plow trucks. Remove multiple trees, stumps, and overgrowth at Dog Park. Open up the trail that goes around the park. Repair rock wall hit on corner of Hazen Street and Main Street from snow clearing operations. Finish servicing all weed whackers, demo saws, leaf blowers, and chainsaws in both highway and buildings and grounds. The mechanic, 2014 International Plow Truck radiator replacement, 2010 F550 sander repair, 2018 Freightliner plow truck routine service, repair transmission issue, repair exhaust issue, routine service for senior bus, replace cutting edge on 2014 International plow truck, 2005 International plow truck routine service, 2022 Chevy Tahoe routine service, 1996 International dump truck belt issue, and 2010 International rack truck routine service. For the month of March, the building department issued 32 permits, 9 certificates of compliance, and 4 certificates of occupancy. They did 55 on-site inspections, 3 complaints were investigated, 23 fire inspections were done, 7 signs were removed. They took in $24,468 in permit fees and $4,000 fees for municipal searches, or 10 of them. $200 for renewal permits. New planning board projects open this month, 3. New zoning board projects open, none. That's all that.
Okay. So before I get into what I
I was
have,
gonna ask, oh, sorry, go ahead.
yeah, just real quick. So this came in last minute. We're not gonna act on this tonight, but you know that we have the whole Curie Road issue.
Mhm.
Yes.
So, just to bring you up to speed on that, later this week, after we've been able to acquire some, what are they, Jersey?
Jersey
Yeah,
barrier.
Jersey barriers. We are gonna put into place, I guess I'll let Tom explain what we're gonna do here.
Well, the road is, the retaining wall's collapsing.
Yeah.
The guardrail's starting to, it's actually only being really held up by the telephone pole. We're gonna take the road down to 1 lane for now and wait till the engineers come up with a plan to fix fix the wall. The wall has 3 cracks that go from the bottom to the top, that go all the way through the structure, and the road is down about 2 feet. So there's definitely some significant moving going on. You know, we want to disturb as little as possible. Our plan was to actually shut it off. However, there's 3 driveways where we need to shut the road down, so that doesn't work.
Okay.
There's also some other issues with shutting it down between a county road and a state road. So the easiest thing is to go down to 1 lane. We were gonna put up those temporary traffic lights, that 1 lane kind of thing. We're now gonna move over a little, gives us close to 20 feet, and cut down 3 very small trees, like 3 inches in diameter, to open up line of sight, and we should be able to get away without those silly traffic lights. We're gonna do a few other things like signage, local traffic only, 1 lane road ahead, but it's definitely something that we have to fix before we lose.
Yeah, and so what this is a task order for an engineering agreement for MHE, you know, to evaluate and recommend replacement, and it's also for the I believe for the bidding process as well for this. We have to come back next week to appoint Tom Butner as police officer. We were waiting on his medicals to come back, and
Yeah.
so we were hoping to have it by tonight. But if we don't appoint before May 5th, then the list expires, and then we're into a new list. But we won't be able to really hire anyone off of that list. They won't be ready because most of them are going to probably end up being in the academy. So we'll have to go many, many months without being able to fill openings on the police department. So we're very hopeful that sometime this week we'll get those physicals back, the physical back, and then next week we'll be able to just schedule a quick special to appoint Mr. Butner. And I would think we could do this at that meeting, unless you want to do this right now. This is the task order for Curie. I mean, if you want to take time to look through it, I apologize, it was just sitting here, it came in like at 5 o'clock, so.
Steve, what are your thoughts on this?
Looks like it's $15,000. As Josh said, it's very inclusive as far as getting the work done. There is a provision that the 15 is an estimate
Okay.
and not a total amount. They charge their usual hourly if they're going to go over that. They're usually pretty good with their estimates. I wouldn't anticipate that you're going to spend over 15. You know, if you're concerned about it, you might want to look through it, but I don't know what changes you're going to make. I mean, they're your engineers. They've been doing the work up till now.
Yeah.
Like I said, they're usually pretty much spot on with unless they encounter some, you know, crazy thing in the field. But this,
Unforeseen.
this is, but
And
this
that
is,
could happen either way.
but
We
this
have
is,
to do
this
this.
is planning.
Yeah.
Yes, and absolutely, you gotta do it. So I mean, if you're not gonna use them, you're gonna use somebody else. So I would not have a problem with moving forward with this tonight if that's what the board wishes. If you wanna wait for the special meeting and read it over more carefully, or have us read it a little more carefully and report, you'd be happy to do that.
When is he gonna be back from vacation? Is it
Monday,
Sean
I
gonna
think,
do it?
right?
He's back on Monday, but no, I don't believe it's gonna be Sean that's doing the evaluation. I believe it's gonna be
Michael
the,
Amaro.
Mike?
yeah, it's because it's what,
Okay.
structural?
Structural.
Sean doesn't do structural.
Okay.
Why they picked him, but yeah, so it's gonna be
Jamie
Mike.
Zajac, too, I believe.
Yeah, I think Jamie and Michael, yeah, I think,
Okay.
yeah, because they have different, Sean does different things than,
I am fine to go ahead with it tonight, so since it's the, you know, engineering firm.
are you okay?
I have no problem.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then if, you could just do a simple motion to
A
approve.
motion to approve the agreement for engineering services received from New Hazard MHE regarding the Curie Road retaining wall, structural evaluation, and to authorize the supervisor to sign the same.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michael Rossi?
Yes.
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes. Okay, so, Camo, so let me see, so Tim's obviously not here tonight, so I'll just go over some of his stuff real quick. So we've got, Camo pollution control, we've got the Firth Cliff plant on 35 Howard Street. Let me see, we just have, regular maintenance, snow and ice removal at Firth Cliff wastewater treatment plant. We had a staircase installed at BD Terrace Pump Station. Everyday tasks are done. The collection system, TAM cleaned 1,000 feet of the sewer main on Route 32 behind Quality. TAM cleaned some trouble spots in the collection system and the two main lines that run to Firth Cliff wastewater treatment plant. All of the flow, the BOD, the TSS, and the geometric mean coliform, they are all within the permit limits for the month. So that is good. Normally we have troubles when we have, rain and, Shore Road, which is our largest treatment plant, just the usual maintenance that we have all the time. The collection system, sewer lateral inspection and repair at 24 Grand Street. We had a sewer lateral inspection at 69 Miller Avenue. TAM did a monthly cleaning of trouble spots. The flow, the BOD, and the TSS, they were all within the permit limits for the month. So that is good. Something that we're gonna be looking to do is, there's something called the Wastewater Surveillance Network. The New York State Department of Health that reached out to us. A number of other wastewater plants in Orange County and throughout the Hudson Valley. What they do is the state sends us vials. We do testing at our plants. They want to start with Shore Road, and they do testing. They pay for all of the shipping back and forth. Goes to the state labs, and they're going to be testing for different communicable diseases. So this is like like COVID, measles, other, and this is how you can sort of tell what's fluctuating out there. And so they're basically trying to sign up every wastewater plant in Orange County.
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a good. So that's something that they're going to be doing. KMO's working out the details with them, but it's just easy. Just like dip it, seal it, and ship it.
Yeah.
It's not anything too onerous. Let me see here. So in terms of just on April 11th, I was invited to attend the Community Leader Information Forum at West Point. And so the mayor and I attended. And so the goal was basically to provide an update on what's going on in the town of Cornwall and to strengthen our relationships with the senior commander, Lieutenant General Stephen Gilland, and Garrison Commander Colonel Bianco. And so we went, we had a chance to just sort of give an update on what's going on, events that are coming up, and also, to kind of meet some important people. So if we ever have issues down the road, we know who we can talk to. So that took place last week. Obviously, Senator Gillibrand, she came to Munger Cottage. That was a
Special treat.
yeah, no, definitely a special treat. And so we are already working with their office on looking at opportunities for not just senior funding opportunities, but there's also the Build Back Better Infrastructure bill that was passed last year. There's actually something called Safe Streets and Roads Infrastructure Funding.
Yeah.
And so we're going to be looking to see if any of our roads qualify. They give you a bunch of tools to determine, based on accidents and deaths and other things, and of course you don't have to have any of that. You can find a way to try to make it work. And so we're going to try, I think I'm going to talk to Phil Greeley, who's our transportation engineer, traffic engineer, to see what he would say about this, because this is kind of like a special level of, when you apply for this grant, you got to use specific like traffic type data, and that's not what MHE does. So, I'm just gonna have a discussion to see what he thinks about that, and then I'm gonna look at some of the opportunities. But there is, I think it's $500 million that would go to fund, these transportation projects.
Yeah, she did mention
Yeah.
about the grants.
So, so we're working on that. As far as New York Forward is concerned, this just came out the beginning of April. This is the guidebook for folks in the community that want to know sort of how the process is going to roll out. The state put this out. It's on the website. It's out there. This is going to be for the board members of the local planning committee when they are finally, the state has basically picked a group, and we're reaching out to just reconfirm that that folks still want to be on the committee. Once that has been finalized, the state will send personal invitations to them, and then we can announce publicly who is on the committee. But the state's really driving, this process. So we have to, be sort of, until they give the go-ahead, we cannot sort of, put that list out there. I do know that they will be looking to have the first meeting of the local planning committee sometime in May. And so if you go to, if you just type in New York Forward and you Google it, you'll come up and this is there. I would recommend just taking a look at it because it's going to guide the whole process, how it's going to work, the types of projects they're looking for, just sort of how it's all going to work. But this is a good, I mean, it's a lot, actually. It's kind of I don't know.
And
100
that's accessible to the public.
Oh, yeah, no, they can just go to the website, it's available digitally, I mean, it's 130 pages. I think I've read through the executive summary so far, but I'll make sure that I'm well read on that. The Main Street parking, so as you're aware, we went through a 2-week period of issuing warnings. We are now in the enforcement mode of things. I don't know, have we had any issues today, I guess, or yes. And we also we put together a Main Street parking study. I've got 80 responses so far. The goal, because, I mean, look, basically, the goal is gonna be, let's just say from Hazen to the traffic circle, businesses, employees, property owners, etc. We want everyone to take this survey. So we're gonna try to hit everyone. We've got 80 so far. So we're going to try to work off a list and go down, we want to be pretty thorough with this, and the goal is to have folks answer the questions about how they use parking on Main Street. And once we have that, we'll have an idea as to how many people are parking off street, how many people, need to park, either on Main Street, just basically how people are using it, for businesses, how many, staff do they have that need parking, et cetera. And so then once we have some of this data, we can then decide, are there additional things we need to do, some different solutions that we need to do. But remember, like our consultant said, this is like, I guess basically like this is a process where you can try something, it doesn't work, you pull it back, you try something else. There's no one shot
Quick
fixes
fix.
parking. You kind of need to try things out. If it works, you continue doing it. If it doesn't work, you pull it back, you try something else. But that's basically the approach that he recommended. And we haven't really laid any money out for this other than, what, a $40 chalk marker, I think that we have.
Yeah, I think it was like 60, but.
Yeah, $60. So I think that's really the only expense we've put into enforcement. The officers are already working, so they're just, fitting it in within their, what they're already doing. So when we have more than 80 responses, I'll come back to the board and I'll let you know what the results say. We'll tabulate them, and then we'll, see what the results say. As far as Earth Day, Arbor Day, as you're aware, we are going to have this Arbor Day planting next Friday at 8 a.m. Just a couple other things that I think pertain to Earth Day, Arbor Day. The Environmental Bond Act, if you recall, that was passed last year by voters, and $200 million in funding is going to be added to $225 million of funding to have this really massive water infrastructure WIA grant application that's going to be coming out. And so we're certainly going to be looking to reapply for Firthcliffe, I&I, which we were recommended for award, but they ran out of money. So hopefully this extra $200 million will mean that we get a grant. We're also going to be looking at, there's something called the Intermunicipal Grant Program. This is where you have a water or sewer system that serves multiple municipalities. You can actually apply jointly. One has to be the lead. So the village, I believe, is going to be looking to apply for water, but their water system serves our residents. They would have to be the lead. But the reason why you want to do this is because you can actually get twice the amount of grant funding. Whereas if you just go for a straight WIA and water, you're like capped. But if you apply jointly, you can get almost double the amount. So it sort of benefits. If there's a way to figure it out where we can do it, they'd still have to be the lead on that but if we apply jointly, where they're the lead, and we're able to upgrade our water infrastructure, it kind of benefits us all because ratepayers, town residents outside of the village are paying rates to support the infrastructure. So there's also something called the Highlands Conservation Act grant program. which are federal funds available to purchase important environmentally sensitive tracts of land. My understanding is that there's going to be a new application period, a period in the fall. So, in working with, some of the local organizations like HHLT or OCLT or OSI or others, there may be some tracts of land that are, that fit, that the town may want to protect or preserve. So but we don't have all the details yet. They haven't opened up the grant sort of application process yet, but it is something that's on our radar. What else here? The Cornwall cleanup crew. So I guess I just want to make a plug here. So as you know, we've got this group of citizens that are going out every weekend, and they're picking up trash and debris and garbage alongside. I mean, for a large part of the time, it was alongside Route 32, but they're now starting to move on to other roads, county roads, town roads. They meet on Sundays. If you want to join their group or sort of meet up and do some of the work, just go follow them on Facebook. They meet on Sundays. Definitely something. It would be great if more residents got involved in their efforts. I think they're doing a really great job. Let me just see here. Yesterday I attended a Newburgh area transit service redesign working group. And you may say, why did you attend this? Well, we have a bus stop actually. One of the stops outside of the Cornwall St. Luke's Montefiore Hospital campus, and so they're looking to basically expand coverage and service and to help folks that are transit dependent. And so we basically met, and so the goal is going to be and I was really there to kind of advocate for, I think, Cornwall's interests, which are basically, we would maybe want an additional 1 or 2 stops inside of our town. Maybe we want them going to Cornwall Plaza. Maybe we want them going to Idlewild Creek Apartments. Seniors are transit dependent. Youth are transit, dependent. Folks without cars. And so the goal is going to be, can we see if there's a way to get some additional stops here in, Cornwall, but also, I don't think the bus currently stops in New Windsor in Five Corners, and they kind of brought this up as like, well, if you're picking up people in Cornwall or elsewhere, they're going to want to go to like ShopRite or Hannaford's or
They
Price.
come through Five Corners on their way to.
Yeah, they might as well stop there, right?
Yeah.
And so these are all this is all the feedback they're trying to get. And so if there's a way for us to get some additional service, we only have one senior bus, so if there's a way to get some additional service for our residents who are transit dependent, I'm going to sort of pursue that if I can.
Is this for the county?
Yeah, so it's
More
it's
county buses running for the town.
yeah, so it's basically it's the county, but it gets state funding and federal funding, and there are some fares. And as you may recall, Senator Skoufis was able to get money to provide free fares for January, February, and March. And during that time, when there was no fare, when there was free fares, they saw an exponential increase in ridership. Obviously, it was free, so people did it. So they're kind of they're just and they're also trying to have discussions on sustainability and what's the right way to pay for the system. To get federal funds, you have to charge a fare. You can't. So if it's free, you can't get federal funds. But if you do have some people paying fares, then you're eligible for federal transportation funding. So it was a very informative meeting. And then I guess sort of lastly here, something that we're going to be looking to get out is a town hall newsletter, a digital newsletter that the goal is to get this out before April. Every department has been taking part in this, and so we're just basically, we've got a subscription to MailChimp, and every department has an article or a story. The first newsletter is really going to be about what they do. Here's who the staff are, like a picture of the staff. And the goal is going to be to put important events in there and different things. And we're going to try to do this on a quarterly basis. I think it would be a little much to do it monthly right now, but we'll kind of see where it goes. But that's all I got. Is there any public comment?
Do you want to ask Deputy Supervisor if he has anything to report?
Oh, sure. Yeah, sorry about that. Do you have any?
You stole my thunder. Tommy and I met with the cleanup crew last week or the week before, and tried to give them a little bit of guidance as to what's going to work and what's not. I think it was a very valuable meeting, and as a consequence, instead of going back to 32, they were cleaning up on Otter Kill and Orders Mills this Sunday, and your guys got right over there and dealt with the stuff.
Made it disappear before it got bigger.
They need a little bit of direction because they don't kind of understand who does what and the limitations of DOT and between Tommy and myself, I think we kind of got them a little focused. And Tommy was good enough to get them a list of county, state, and town roads so that they know when they're working, like I suggested, they work on the Long Hill Road extension because I live there, we walk down there every day, and I know it's not the guys going to the range who are dropping the empties over the side. So that's one place that they can go. And there's Tommy will keep them up to date on the other places that need attention as well.
And I guess just one other thing I would add is that, as you know, we have these snow parking signs that are at the beginning of town and then somewhere into town. I've asked Tommy to look where we could put some signs on Main Street, because even though, I mean, people should probably know about the 2 inches, you know, we often have people moving in and out of apartments on Main Street and they don't know. So we're gonna look to maybe put a sign or two at either end of Main Street that sort of gives those snow parking regulations, because, you know, we're trying to avoid having people get their car towed. I mean, I think we're doing everything. I mean, look, we allow them to park at Town Hall. We try to, you know, the police do try to call before they tow. Sometimes it's just not possible. But, I mean, anything we can do to avoid having somebody have their car towed is,
Are they gonna be permanent signs?
yeah, I mean, we could probably just affix them to an existing sign, I would think, right?
I'd like to put them up maybe just from October through
Like the seasonal signs.
Yeah, whatever you think makes sense. Yeah, I mean, and then I think just sort of ending on we did receive, this is just a bit of good news here, a congrats to the Cornwall Town Clerk's Office. We did receive a letter from Eunice E. Crudelli. And this is basically just a thank you letter. She sent it to me. Dear Supervisor Wojciechowski, I'm writing regarding my recent visit to the Cornwall Town Clerk's Office. First, I will give a brief synopsis of the purpose of my visit. She just kind of goes on to say, you know, what a great job that the town's clerk's office is doing. When I entered the office, I was greeted by Leandra Gallagher, and then a miracle took place. She used her personal cell phone and somehow managed to speak to a human at Verizon. You know, she was able to make some arrangements and to solve some problems. During my time at the clerk's office, Leandra Gallagher, Jennifer McCormick, and Cecilia were outstanding. They displayed intelligence, knowledge, understanding, caring, humor, and patience. They assisted a senior citizen who had a dilemma. I cannot express how grateful I am for the help I received that day. I wish that the citizens of Cornwall knew that these 3 fine women are working on their behalf every day. They are a definite asset to the community, and as I was told, the world needs more people like them. Very truly yours. So I think this is just ending on a good note here. Thanks, Jen. I mean, this is exactly the kind of, you know, what I would call customer service that we want to be providing out of each of our offices. So,
We're a team there.
yeah.
Yes, absolutely, thank you.
So thank you for that. Is there any public comment before we adjourn the meeting? No? All right, make a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Scott?
Yes.
Mr. McGinnis?
Yes.
Ms. Michaelozzi?
Yes,
Mr. Wojciechowski?
Yes.
still have time to go vote at the library.
You do. No, I was trying to.
Right,
Still have time. Polls open till 9 o'clock at the library.